Tim Sugar.
Sorry. Yeah, I know.
And there's one with the earpiece behind us.
Yeah, I know.
He's touching it with them.
Obviously, it's anyone can do. Okay, what you need to do is just notice. Obviously, if you
It's all important.
No, we put right at the back of it. Yeah, there we go. Back in it.
obviously
To the foreigners, they are the ones they will serve the notice.
please just stay out of it, sir.
No, nothing to do with you, sir. Nothing to do with you. It's a freedom. Nothing. Take your hand out. Go away. Leave me alone.
I haven't touched
I have the freedom. Okay, don't come close to me.
Sir.
Don't come close to me. Leave me alone. I teach you. I'm in freedom. I mean, if you want to. Leave me alone.
Right, listen.
Leave me alone. I have the right. I mean, to come to what's going on. A crime. You are committing a crime against these civil people. I mean, you're laughing. I mean, you think
I'm
you're
smiling, sir. I'm
yeah,
smiling,
no,
sir.
you're laughing also. Yeah.
I am not laughing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's you can think about that all you want. But I'm just asking you to construct.
This is you are committing a crime. I mean, that's what I'm telling you. You are planning against civilian people. I mean, that's what you do. All the time, the free authorities come together. The DLA and the Westminster and the police, corrupt police. Corrupt, all of you.
Just let us know when you want us to support you to seize the equipment. Serve a notice and seize the equipment, okay? Yep.
we can't go. We have to let people in front of us. No one in front of us. People in front of us, please. People in front of us.
Nicely pushed. It's the Heritage Police.
I switched.
Seize equipment.
Let's get Jesus
Sleep right, be right all night. Everybody is psychic. It's about to go down.
What would you like?
I'm afraid you said from 143 police response 2011
Unplug it, my colleague wants to speak to you.
What's the problem?
Right, my colleague wants to speak to you.
Come on.
No.
What's the problem?
Is this yours?
No.
It's not.
No, it's not mine.
Whose is it?
I don't know.
Whose is it?
I don't know.
Are you in possession of it?
Yeah, who are you?
Yeah.
Right.
What gives you the right to ask him?
If you'd let
What's that?
if you'd let my colleague speak, then maybe you would know. Okay. So actually, let's step back a
You
little
haven't
bit.
introduced who you are.
Let him speak now.
Who are you?
I'm Martin
I
Toohey.
work for City of Westminster.
What is that?
That's my identification.
Yeah, but what City of Westminster? What does it refer to?
Who do you work for?
Who do you work for?
Who do you work for?
Westminster City Council. If you
And
let my
who
colleague
do they work for?
I work for Westminster City Council.
Who do they work for?
I'm an authorised officer. Under Police Reform and Social Responsibility Act, you cannot play amplified music in designated area of Parliament Square.
Sorry.
Yes.
Okay?
Can you stand back a little bit, sir, please?
Oh, well, in a minute, yeah.
Why are you enforcing that?
We're enforcing it. We're the authority to enforce
Just
it.
stand back a little bit.
Why? What's wrong? What?
Trying to deal with this.
Well, he's dealing with it. He can talk.
If you continue,
I'm allowed to stand here, aren't I? I'm not causing any problems.
you are causing a problem. You're right in the way of designated areas.
Well, that's fine. I'm filming. I'm filming, as I'm sure you are.
You've got to zoom in. Play music.
Play amplified, it's not music, play amplified equipment in Parliament Square.
What about if we have it a bit quieter?
No.
What, so even if it's...
Anything amplified.
And where does Parliament Square end? Where does Parliament Square end? Yeah. Parliament Square, the designated area of Parliament Square. And this is the authority of Westminster City Council.
Right, okay. We get to seize this equipment. Yeah, let's seize the equipment then. Hang on.
What gives you the right to do this? What gives you the right to do this?
There's no need to seize the equipment.
Who do you work for?
Playing amplified music at
And
the
who do
moment.
they work for? Who do they serve? Are you a public servant? So you're serving us. We are the public. You work for us.
Can you stand back, please?
No, sorry. You work for us, don't
No
you?
obstructing.
You work for us, don't you? You're a public servant.
Excuse me.
We won't play it anymore.
You know,
I'm going to ask you to remove it from Parliament Square.
We'll remove it. We'll remove it.
You remove it.
That's fine.
Comes back, it'll be gone.
it will get seized and people will get arrested.
We'll take it away.
It's fine. We're taking it away.
He's going to allow them to serve it.
Everybody stand back, allow this gentleman to take the sound system away, please, as he's agreed. That's it. You just stand back a bit. Stand back a bit. Allow the sound system to come out.
We're not allowed the sound system.
No, not allowed anything. Because they say so.
No, come on, there's got to be a law. Why aren't we allowed one?
There is a law, yes. It's under the Police Responsibility and Social Reform Act 2011, and there's also some Westminster Council bylaws that prevent it as well. Westminster Council are taking enforcement action, you know, with the GLA, so they're dealing with it. Sorry, not amplified music. No. Amplified music. That's right. Yeah. Right, let's move it out of the way then. Let's take it away. Thank you. Thank you very much. Excuse me. Stand back, please. Thank you. I do. Stand back. Off you go.
Haven't Westminster Council got helping the homeless?
You
You're just going to put spikes down.
every law that makes us human.
You run out of spikes, have you?
If I was a human being, I couldn't uphold that law, mate.
No. Do you know what really annoys me? It's a small social experiment. I don't have enough to help because I can't see this.
No.
So I asked car first. I know I'm not sure if people are and I'm not sure as well that how many people that we catch something.
Yeah.
And could they sleep?
You are surrounded. Give yourselves up.
Anything that could aid sleep. Any structures. Yeah, we'll have to go out on the pavement, but we're not allowed any structures or anything that could aid. Nothing that could aid sleep. No. No. And they haven't said the 10
Sneaking up round, mate.
He's amazing. I'm just going up to Birmingham.
The pork pie in the sky.
This lot have turned up and there seems to have been a miscommunication. Okay? They've been sent on a blue light rifle. The reason why is they were told there was some sort of disturbance. We're here, we know there is no disturbance. What we're doing now is we're trying to get the helicopter back and get all these carriers taken away. It's far too much. And I completely understand. If you notice what I did myself, I saw straight over there when they turned up. We were as surprised as you to see them. We found out why they were here. We've now, my son's actually working on trying to get them moved, and then I'm moving away through the group, letting you all know that we're on it, because obviously they should be there and it's overkill, but they were told something different. So there seems to have been a bit of a miscommunication, because we've been here on the ground, you've seen us walk around, we know there's been no problems. Right? So I'm making my way, letting the crowds know, don't worry, we get the police moved, as opposed to anything further, and it seems to be a miscommunication, genuine.
It's a bit intimidating though, isn't it?
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that. That's why I'm coming along trying to reassure everyone. Helicopter and carriers was getting moved as quick as you can.
Right, thank you.
No, and then I'm going to circle to the end here. I'll come back the other way and let you know what the updates are. Because when so many police officers turn up, there's usually a lot of bosses. They've all got to talk to each other. All right?
All right.
Bear with us and I'll keep you updated. This is the doggy.
Who's that coming over the hill? Is it the tractor? Then turning round and going over. You're right.
How you doing, bro? Oh, love you.
Oh, nice one. Good to see you.
Yeah, and you, mate. Yeah. They told us we can't go on the grass, mate. Well done, on your back.
Got it in there, like, fuck, my baby would have his child.
Everybody just occupy the space and sit down. We're going to have a few speakers. We're all here. It's too much energy. Hello! So we're all here united and we're all going to occupy, we're all going to just sit down, take over democracy, take over our own space, and we're going to have a few words from some speakers. We're going to start with John MacDonald, who's a Labour MP who actually stands for something good. Is he here? Yeah. John! He was here a second ago.
People are dying as a result of the suffering they're enduring. And it's because of the cuts in welfare benefits, the attacks on disabilities, the sanctions that's forcing through poverty we've not seen on a scale since the 1930s. 1 million families now every year going to food banks. And yet the rich get richer. The average pay of a director in the FTSE 100 now is 140 times the average pay of their workers. Shareholders have never had such a feast, a feeding feast, as they had this year, and we're supposed to be in a crisis. And they still keep coming for us, privatising our services, turning education with tuition fees from not a gift from one generation to another, but for a commodity to be bought and sold, selling off every public service that we rely upon. And yes, wages are being cut even for those in work, 10% over the last 2 years. And 2/3 of the children living in poverty in this country are in families that are in work. And the reason people are here is because the building opposite, which is meant to represent us, is doing nothing about it. They've allowed a supposed democracy to be turned into a kleptocracy. And what we've got to do, well, there's 3 ways we've learned over the years how we change lives. The first was through the trade union movement. It was at the turn of the Industrial Revolution. People learned in the fields and the workshops of the secret. The secret was solidarity. That we are the many, they are the few, that united we stand, divided we fall, and they joined trade unions. And the trade union march today, yes, was excellent, but some of those unions are being bureaucratised. And so the struggle isn't just about democracy in Parliament, it's a struggle for democracy within our trade unions. And what Mark Sawatka said today, the General Secretary of PCS, the union I associate myself with, he said if we can campaign and march together, why don't we strike together? Because in that way we can demonstrate industrial strength that can bring this government down. The second way in which we demonstrate our power is electorally. We formed a Labour Party supposedly to represent us. You know as well as I do that they introduced half the cuts when they were in power as well. So the fight for me as a Labour MP, I have to say, is within the Labour Party to fight them, but also the fight for all of us
is to gain proper representation through whatever party we support and through whatever electoral system we support. We've got to eyeball these bastards because they're supposed to represent us, not crap on us in the way they are at the moment. But the third way is this, isn't it? We used to call it insurrection, but we're polite now, we call it direct action. If politicians don't represent us, if they don't speak for us, we have to take to the streets. And that's what people are doing, increasingly. In demonstrations, in occupations, in all forms of struggle now, people are building confidence. It started in the city with Occupy, but that gave confidence in my constituency. Transition Heathrow, occupying a site, transforming it. And yet when the bailiffs come, having the strength to deter them as well, building links within the community.
Try and prevent this happening. What this protecting of the right for the grass to grow over our right to democratically assemble shows is that they know that what happened with Occupy last time round was that we changed the national conversation. For three years into the crisis, they were still talking about the deficit as the main thing that we should focus on, without talking about why we had an enormous deficit, because we bailed out the banks for hundreds of billions of pounds. They actually blamed it on Labour spending a bit of money on hospitals, which was a joke. And yes, Labour spent money insanely, inefficiently on hospitals. Through the private finance initiative, we're paying, and over decades, about 6 times as much for many of those hospitals as we would have done if we just built them ourselves. But the reason they are trying to stop this is that they know that this kind of action has power. They know that tens of thousands of people can march one day and go home again, and it doesn't make that much difference. There is so much informational control in this culture. Globally speaking, they spend about $3 trillion a year on public relations, marketing and advertising. That's $3,000 billion. And all of that suggests that they understand that if we can get together on a sane democratic basis, then we have the power to change things. So there is all sorts of stuff that we can take as a kind of silver lining from this travesty of democracy that is, I mean, God knows how many tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of pounds are spent on these people that are meant to be facilitating our right to protest, that are here essentially to prevent it happening. Because whatever they might think as individuals, and I think actually most of them don't want massive cuts to the police, for instance. They don't want their relations to be screwed if they're disabled or young or anything else. But what they are doing is putting into practice the power and the rules of the 1% in there. And unfortunately, inequality is not just about the brutal consequences in terms of what happens when literally 40% of the wealth is held in 1% of hands, in terms of what that wealth isn't going to in terms of disabled people and elderly people and other vulnerable groups. It's what happens with that concentration of money leading to concentration of political power. And one of the scandals of the last 40 years is that we were told that all these crazy Thatcherite policies, even though they probably weren't very good for democracy, they were going to kind of improve things for everybody because wealth was going to trickle down. Not only was that a complete lie, wealth has gushed up completely, and as I say, as the Welsh gushes up, so does political power. And what they've also done by liberalising markets is create a situation where more and more people feel that their democratic efforts don't count because we're dominated by global economic forces. But what I think is really, really important to remember is that a corporation is a fictional legal entity. These corporations that are very literally and physically destroying the world, exploiting millions of people, dispossessing literally tens of millions of people a year for the sake of modernising agriculture, etc., and driving people across the world into slums. This is only happening because we have forgotten that we can rub the lamp. You know, corporations exist only because societies like this one maintain the legal architecture that says a corporation is a person with all these insane rights to screw everybody over. We could vote for a party that radically changes the status of corporations. We could vote for a party that put in capital controls. And even the IMF has said recently that capital controls make sense in some circumstances. So when organisations like that are saying that, it's bloody obviously true, and for obvious reasons. Unless we can control the money, then we can't control society. And this idea of separating the economy from society as if economics is just a science to be left to experts in economics departments and people running increasingly complex computers in the city, it is a complete illusion designed to take away meaningful political power from us. But like I said before, The reason they're doing all this is that they know that if we can change the conversation and change people's sense of what is possible in terms of political change, there is nothing to stop us. Owen Jones wrote a book recently called The Establishment. I mean, he could have called it The 1%. I would have been kind of happy if he did that, but he's talking about the same thing. And what that makes clear is that even UKIP supporters actually stand for many things that are to the left of all the mainstream parties. A significant majority of UKIP supporters think we should nationalise the energy system, we should nationalise rail, we should have less inequality, we should protect the NHS. What they don't realise is that UKIP, like the Tea Party, and this is why the mainstream media loves UKIP, is that they are an entirely deceptive force. By pushing buttons of prejudice, they can get people, they can totally distract people from what that party really stands for. It is paid for by right-wing millionaires just as much as the other parties. And I'm going to share a quote with you. In 1864, after the Civil War in America, where because of sort of big wartime contracts, corporations in America had this huge kind of surge in power and wealth, and Abraham Lincoln wrote in a letter, I see a crisis approaching in the near future which unnerves me and causes me to tremble for the safety of my country. Corporations have been enthroned and an era of corruption in high places will follow. And this is the key bit, as the money power of the country works upon the prejudices of the people until all wealth is aggregated in a few hands and the republic is destroyed. And this is what we see, you know, that was 160 years ago. This is what we've seen marching on ever since. Manipulating people's social divisions, playing out divide and rule as they have for thousands of years to make sure that we don't see common cause, that we don't find that solidarity that John McDonnell was just talking about. And if we can find that, the fact that the vast majority of people want a decent future for themselves and for their society, and they want the things that we all depend on for a decent life to share power, that will come back to people's awareness and we will organise to bring it about. Because democracy, as we all know here, and that's probably why you're here, is not just about voting every 4 or 5 years for a bunch of parties that all have policies that don't represent us, and even then they can get into power and do exactly the opposite of what they said in their policies, and there's nothing we can do about it except for vote for another bunch of liars 5 years later who are going to do exactly the same thing to us. All the major changes over time, from the rights of women to decent working conditions to healthcare for all to weekends, but you know, to some level of health and safety at work. And that, I'll just mention a quick word about that because we hear, oh, bloody health and safety. Until health and safety came along, people were exploited, poisoned, killed in vast numbers, as they still are across the world. And it was only people organising via unions, via local democratic efforts that brought about those changes. And by the way, the feminists 100 years ago, they were called anarchists, they were called terrorists, they were called extremists, and all they were saying was all human beings should be equal. So when you hear yourself called an anarchist, an extremist, or a terrorist, or whatever it is, you should realise you're doing something right, that you threaten power. That's why they need to throw these labels at us. So the basic, compassionate, middle ground, decent truth that we stand for can be hidden from the vast majority of people. But all I would say is, please, we need to keep this going in whatever form, whatever kind of abuse we suffer from the authorities. We need to keep this going for the 9 days. Every day until next Sunday is going to be covering a different crucial area of what's going on in the world. We're going to have powerful speakers that will actually tell the truth, rather than the kind of bite-sized deception with the reality of power left out that we get from the mainstream media. But so please keep coming back for the next 9 days, keep telling your friends, and believe in what you're doing, and keep struggling even when it doesn't look as if it's working, because all this force shows that they know that we represent a real threat to power. Thanks very much.
Conformity for the UK! They passed another bill today! Go easy on the wine, don't step out of line! Your future dream is an all will scream! I want to be conformity! White collar job, money! There's only one way left to get what you want. Suck up to the best, fuck the rest. I believe in flattery. I believe in conformity. I want to be conformity.
well, I just spent some time with Occupy in New York. What I think is interesting is that for the first time, economics, politics, and spirituality are coming together in a way that we've not previously seen, or certainly that we've not really seen showcased or come together since the 60s. It's very exciting for me to be a part of that. Some of you know me because I'm a famous person. I wasn't born a famous person. I'm from a place called Grays in Essex. I went back to that place recently. It weren't very nice when I grew up there. It's deteriorated significantly as a result of the recent austerity and cuts that we've experienced. A place that was once sort of had ordinary businesses and ordinary working people coming together has now, as a result of economic policies of this government, begun to greatly deteriorate. I've become tired of living in communities where people turn against one another, where people look for differences, where people look to condemn immigrants, people of different sexual persuasions. This is a genuine opportunity for us to be inclusive, positive, buoyant and optimistic about change. This is an opportunity for us to embrace very, very different ideas. It's an opportunity for us to have a conversation, like the leader of the Green Party was just saying. This is a new and inclusive politics that doesn't have to be built around heroic individuals or typical strategic narratives. That's pretty fascinating that there's been no reform for 100 years, but it feels like that. I feel like we're living in a time of great stagnation, and it's very inspiring to see all manner of different people. The hardcore there that are covering their faces, ready for the next few hours. The people that are coming from a more spiritual, whacked out perspective. The people that may well have been in this square anyway. Simply for somewhere to stand. I think this is a really, really exciting time, and I think, do you know what I think is really important is the way that we behave and interact with the police. Be very, very polite and loving, because these people come from working backgrounds. These are working, ordinary people that will remember who it is that they serve. They will remember, and it's our job to awaken that awareness and knowledge in them. They're here to serve us. They're not here as enforcers for corporate power, for our friends over the road. Well, we'll see. We'll see. I really think it's important for us to be optimistic and loving and create the space for a real change, and that comes on a very, very personal and immediate level, first and foremost. I'm very inspired to be here. I'm very inspired and happy to be one of you. Let's just hang out for a while. I'm interested in the logistics of where's people going to sleep. Has anyone got a Winnebago? Who's got? Nice one. All right. Cheers. Who's next? You want me? Inside you already, old son. Who's next? You, mate. You coming on next? What do you want me to do? Just carry on like sort of recite lines from Game to the Greek? I could sing African Child.
Yeah, sing. Sing, you'll get arrested.
Yeah, you drop. Look, the front masses down.
museums and galleries. And I am from the PCS Union, and our General Secretary today spoke at this march and said not only we need to strike together, but we need to support the direct action movements. Shackling democracies, they are cutting jobs, destroying the NHS, etc. Only through unity we could do it. So well done to everybody. I just want to bring solidarity from the PCS Union.
Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you! Where's my democracy? Where's my bunting? It's my fault.
Let go of this. Just let go of the council. Take the sticks and the bunting. Well, it's not. It's take the bunting and the sticks.
Tell a sergeant or higher authorises it.
You have no reasonable
rank on you. I do know sergeant rank on you. If you're not at one, you will be pursuing a criminal offence. You will pursue a criminal and or civil prosecutor.
It's a peaceful protest. It's a peaceful protest.
This is peaceful. Get off. Leave him alone. Leave him alone. This is peaceful. You're on film. You're on film. You're on film.
I have a right to the
Who do you work for?
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Take him away.
Thank you for the commendation.
Take him away.
Thank you.
So vicious and aggressive against very, very peaceful protesters.
What's his number?
It's on video. Take your hands off me. That is assault and battery. Stand back. No. I'm committed to lawful and democratic duty.
You've been used, man.
You are being used and you are not alright.
And if you want to put that in, so we can
Art thieves are operating in the area.
Hey, no need.
Take caution. Art thieves are operating in the area.
Come back another day.
I witnessed this in on video, sir. It is on my video. I definition
We're doing only what we are allowed to do democratically. We are democratically protesting, we're being peaceful, and you have absolutely no place in interfering with it. If you're honestly saying, as an MP from this House said this afternoon, that the right of the grass to regrow this week rather than in a week's time is more important than us exercising our democratic right to freely assemble, then shame on you. You are meant to be facilitating this protest. So please stop.
This is human to human. We have a right to protest. It is facilitating that. The police are getting 20% cuts, the disabled people, the old people are getting screwed, just so that people get millions richer, and you are getting in the way of a totally peaceful protest. We're not doing anything to contravene the rules here. So please back off and actually facilitate our protest. Thank you.
please listen to him. Facilitate the protest. Are you going to facilitate it?
We are here to facilitate. I think there's certain bylaws that are being broken at the moment. That's what's going down that route.
So we can't protest about the bylaws.
Yeah. I think there's camping gear and erecting certain structures on this land. You're not allowed to have.
Nobody will be told to go unless they put tents up.
They are going with at the moment.
That's happening, so we've just put over there.
Because at the moment no one's being removed. I think it's just the equipment the council people are coming over issuing. Because I think everyone's been issue
I believe
with
I've
something.
got a right to protest, and
Yeah,
I don't
believe that's
believe
right
that
too.
someone would arrest me for that.
I don't think they would arrest you. I
Even
think
if
that
it
there
was,
would
you know,
be,
this
obviously,
weekend.
the process went under legality, stuff like that, then maybe you would,
Well, that's good to know.
times, and then it's down to each person
get a
if they
warning.
change. Of course they do.
And
I think get about 5 warnings.
I think the point he was making was the fact that
People that have asked to leave are given a warning to leave if they don't leave.
I'm sure they've given plenty of...
Yeah, but the point is...
been given written information as well.
Yeah, I mean the thing...
No, I mean for people coming over onto this
Well, the thing is, right, is... Can I finish my conversation?
sorry, darling.
Right.
We challenge you to humanise yourselves.
I know, it always happens.
Mine's not pointing at you.
But, you know, all of you here, you know, as a police officer, yeah, I understand you're doing your job, and I understand that at the moment you're a police officer, but you are a public servant to us, not them, okay? And we want to peacefully protest about what's, you know, the government is doing, and they have the laws, yes, to get us arrested, but we don't think we're doing anything wrong, okay? And as a human being to a human being, you know, you have the power over me, yeah, to arrest me. That's your power because you're a police officer as well as a human being, and I'm not. But I have a right to peacefully protest, okay? And that's what I believe in. And I hope that you'll respect that. You go ahead now, baby. Sorry.
Do we have any respect? Do I have any respect for coming over and taking photos of them? I mean, am I likely to be in trouble?
Can I just check, have you now handed over to the police to clear the space, or are you still...
I haven't handed over to anyone.
You haven't, so you're still in charge of what happens in this area?
So it's still in charge. We're still carrying out our enforcement process. Yeah.
Right, okay. So what stage, because I mean, because it's been such a scrum.
We've issued an enforcement letter, so obviously that the item or structure is being used, obviously to facilitate sleeping or staying in an area for any period. Obviously, the next step, obviously, is we can actually seize the item.
Right, okay, so is it the two structures with the writing on that?
No, it's the ground sheet.
So the ground sheet...
It's used to facilitate staying in a place for any period.
Oh, okay, cool. All right.
Okay,
Thank you.
sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah. Nikki?
Stay together. Stay together. Everyone stay together.
Just a bit of space, please. Thank you.
Hello, everyone.
Guys, can you start moving back away from the Buddy, can you start moving back away from the ground sheet? That's what we're...
Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you!
Guys, move off the ground sheet. Please move off the ground sheet.
Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame
Off the tarpaulin, please, sir.
Not on it, sir.
No, yeah, just stay there, mate.
If you can find someone on the mat, individually ask them to move from the mat.
Step back for us, please, sir. Thank you.
how silly is that? How much does it cost you to take that tarpaulin away? Pay your wages for that.
Because every totalitarian state was based upon a bunch of people obeying the orders. So now, question the orders and get on our side. We do love you. Come with us. We need you.
I was asked to care for you where we don't.
Hello police, I'd like you to know, as many know already, that today we were marching for your pay rises. Many people were standing up. We were marching and protesting for an increase in your pay. Remember that.
They've still got it. I'll battle over it. Do you want it? I'll give you the money. You can go buy another one if you want.
So who's got it? Come on. Who's got the tarpaulin?
Well, I call it we. I don't know if I'm a we or not, but yeah, they are still sitting on it. All they want. So were the Nazis.
It's my job. I'm trying
Do you not question it?
Nice place, officer.
Well, I don't know that. I said you're coming across as not intimidating, which is great. But yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying.
No, you've got to support, both to be supported.
Yeah, I know you. Yeah, I mean, the trouble is you're here to facilitate, aren't you? I know that. And I'm really glad you're here. Because, you know,
Look at that! Right, coming!
PSU, which are coming round now. So Trevor needs to be
Where's your bag?
Mate, I'm going to go, right? Alright, I'll speak to you soon, yeah? In a bit. Bye-bye. I'm recording. One in, one out.
Dave!
At the end of it, I'll talk to someone else.
As well in the sea.
No, we're all facing
He's in one in, one out. There's only a few people. We've now got a ring of steel around the opera.
We sussed this out now.
Yeah, it's a bit confusing.
What's that?
boundary, in or out.
I don't know about that, mate. Who knows? Who knows? I think we're about to get
She wants to prevent any further breach of this.
Can we bring yours in? Tony?
Just so I know, so I don't get arrested.
Yeah, no. Basically, we're not allowing anyone back into the area. They can freely leave.
It's a kettle.
Nobody told us that.
It's a kettle.
At the moment, now you're there, we're not letting you back in. People can leave.
Nobody told me that. I would have stayed in there. I only went to put a cigarette in the road, being a lawful citizen that I am. What are you here for? What are you here for? You're what?
Need to prevent breach of peace.
What? But there's no breach of peace. You're the ones that's causing a breach of peace by being here. Okay. Don't you get it?
Okay.
Take the bloody earwax out of your ears.
Fine, you're entitled to your...
Get a job where people respect you, okay? Stop being a... Oh, I don't care. They're all the same. They don't think yeah, I don't care. They need to think about what they're doing. Hitler, that's what happened. The war, they followed orders.
You are allowed to listen. Okay, but this is a section 3. So he said to me, so explanation of section 3 is you're allowed to go out, but you're not allowed to go back in. If you're going back in, you're saying that you are allowed, you're willing to be arrested for whatever anybody else does.
What they're saying here, obviously, is that what happened last time when everybody was camped out on the grass. What they're here to do is just remove the tarpaulin from the grass. Okay.
What does the police reform?
Sergeant just said I'm allowed to come in at night as long as I don't know.
The council have got a power under Section 1 of the Police Reform and Social Responsibility Act to close this grassed area.
Isn't it Greater London Authority, not the council?
The council have done it. Those are the instructions I've been given. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
And what does that mean to us, the police?
That means we're closing the grassed area. We're not letting anybody else onto it.
And what's happening in there then?
The penalties will be
in there?
You're not allowed on it.
And what happens if we don't get off it?
Then you'll be removed.
And what are the penalties?
At this moment in time, I do not know what the penalties for that charge. At this moment in time, I can't at the moment because I haven't got time to find out the exact penalties.
What risk we're taking.
The risk you're taking is you're risking arrest.
Yeah,
okay, and prosecution. I don't know what the penalties at court is.
But as the inspector has asked, if you wouldn't mind just stepping off the grass area as well now, closing it, that would be lovely, thank you.
How long have I got to think about it?
Well, I don't know, to be honest, as the inspector just said, he has asked you politely.
He hasn't a time limit.
But he has asked you politely, and he's
Can we
not.
have a time limit?
He's not been rude to you or anything. He's asked the questions that you've asked.
But
unfortunately, I don't know anything.
it's not about being rude or not or asking politely. It's about taking away our right to protest and free speech and to do what we decide we want to do, to protest.
Okay, well,
we're not causing any problems to anybody. We're not hurting anybody. We're not causing any crimes.
You're causing a problem.
No. So why do we not? Why do we? Can we not stand on the grass?
All I'm saying to you is, as my colleague has...
The grass will still grow. Have you ever seen your front lawn closed? How can the grass be closed?
That the council have closed this piece of grass. And if the council have got the power to close the grass, and they have got it.
So how can it be illegal to stand on a bit of grass?
It's a bylaw. It's actually a bylaw that the Westminster Council can actually impose.
Oh, right.
We don't have power over that.
Apparently that was scribbled at in the court, wasn't it? And they're going over and above their powers. Pardon?
As draconian as that might seem to you.
No, they've lost. The guy George over there was reading out. They lost the court case against some woman.
Who was reading this?
Somebody over there and gave one of the PCA's officers.
Can you just dress yourselves over to here then, please, ladies and gents? We'll carry on this conversation over here.
What about the
guys? Dress back.
What about the people who've just gone back in again?
Where's that?
My partner's just gone back in again. She was said that the sergeant gave her permission to go in and out as long as she wouldn't do anything.
The sergeant wouldn't have allowed
well, she wouldn't lie.
No, we're not on the grass, we're on the mud, okay? We're on the mud, not on the grass, we're on the mud. Take away the grass, you're not on the grass, because get off the grass.
It's becoming a bit pathetic, this is, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
To make up a law just to suit the occasion, you know?
Yeah, they make up rules as they go along, because they're actually breaking the law by enforcing a law that's been challenged in court, you know, and they haven't got the up-to-date facts.
Shame on these lot for letting this happen.
Do you actually believe that you're doing good here tonight?
Keeping all the pedos safe over there.
You're doing good here tonight?
Well, I've been asked today.
You're doing your job, but do you believe you're doing good? Pardon?
I don't need to answer that question, it's irrelevant at the end of the day.
Merrill.
So they are how long People stay calm!
We can stay over here.
No, you know that. You are trespassing. You are trespassing. Actually, you cannot touch me. What about democracy? Democracy here, not democracy there. One rule for there, one rule for there.
Hey, sir, if you swear to get arrested on your suggest you move on.
1,000 people. Be clever.
24 years. Be clever. What are you going to do about it? The only thing is, when I've finished with you lot, you'll be retired.
That's your opportunity, sir.
It is my opportunity. Because you're going to be egg on your face at the end of the day.
Yeah, what are ya?
Guys, can we just move away? It's now closed park. Move forward. Roger, move in.
You're interfering with the rights of the journalists. You're interfering with the press.
No, you can.
You're interfering with the press.
Mate, you guys are just going to appear just a little bit so much shit.
These roads are still stopping anyone.
So I just go through this huge forest. Do you get turned on? Is this sexually exciting for you? Getting told, get my fucking NUJ pass, I get a hold of it, and then still, what are you going to do? Come on. You're in a job where you're expected to put up with this kind of nonsense. I don't think anyone here is making complaints. So stop the intimidation.
I'm
Why do
intimidating
it?
you.
Yes.
Sorry you feel intimidated about it.
They want a bit of blue tarpaulin, for God's sake. How many things do I just check?
These two guys have been filming all day. Are you not letting them back in?
Nope.
Are you not letting these filmmakers back in?
I even showed my
Unless
NUJ
someone's got
pass.
a press card, I think they can go back in.
I just showed my NUJ pass.
All press, all press.
I don't know, this gentleman should have
Yes, yes, he's
I
been
am.
filming all
Have you got a
day.
card to show he's in your pass?
You have not said that it has to be card holders. They are filmmakers. He's said that you've sent it.
So that's it,
So can Johnny come back in?
Well, no, he can't if he's not got a press card. No.
Mate, I've got a press pass.
Right, well, that gentleman's allowed back in then because I think we've just allowed another.
Whatever happened to democracy?
Right.
And they like it. They like it.
This is a bit strange.
Are you doing good here tonight? Are you doing good here tonight? I'm doing my job, yes. Job work. Giving orders. I am doing my Look at it! Shame on you! 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 Shame on you!
The Section 1 of the Police Reform and Social Responsibility Bill has been closed. Now, you walked past me and your friend touched me on the end. Right, I've asked you to move.
You are a liar.
So please don't
be held accountable in a court of law.
Please don't cause me to end up having a roll rag. I don't want to.
No comments! 11953.
You want to give us your details so we can
no comments.
Right, now, you're off.
Pardon?
Take your bus
Right,
card.
thank you very much. Look after yourself, sir.
One by one. Say no comments.
They're afraid to arrest me as soon as somebody
We're not allowed it any person.
Against tripling of tuition fees, against bedroom tax, against benefit cuts for disabilities, imposition of fracking industry on our communities, and the secret TTIP deals, which is going to take your jobs because they're all going to go to G4S. So there is no law that requires that for me to film, I have to have it on. I am.
You can film from here, but you can't go in. Okay.
I get told I can go around just not arguing my boss about this panel. I get told.
No doubt that's not loudspeakers.
I don't personally
You could
vote,
have
sir.
made a public announcement.
Maybe, but also if we had the day,
Excuse me, can you not touch me, please?
if you don't cross this line,
I haven't crossed the line. I haven't crossed the line.
Also, Sergeant Tether, this man actually is filming for the Frack Off campaign. He's been here filming all
Well, is
day.
he a journalist or is he filming for an organisation that's paid for? There's a difference between being a journalist and being paid to do a promotional or documentary film.
I'm not being paid for anything.
Well, yeah, but if you've got a card,
So
say
are
you're a
you-
journalist,
are
you'll
you
be in.
independent?
If you're not
Yeah.
part of the
So
union,
he's
then
an independent filmmaker. He's been
that's
filming.
different. Then that's fine. No, but then he's not a
Well, then
journalist.
but
No, he's not a journalist.
Well, it seems to be somewhat censoring that you're not actually making an announcement so that independent filmmakers are informed that if they step outside the cordon, they can't come back and go.
As people have been going, we are telling them about the powers.
Were you told when you exited? So is there anything major about letting this filmmaker step back into the circle?
That well, at the moment, no. If you want to speak to the chief superintendent, ask him that question.
I have
He's the
been
one who's
trying
employed
to talk to who's in charge throughout the day. All he does is walk away and show me his back.
Unfortunately, I can't make him talk.
So therefore, you're actually not allowing this independent filmmaker.
Yes, because he's not sure. If we have a journalist card, he's in. because that's the press. That's fine.
Well, I guess it means that at least you can.
What he can from the pavement, that's fine.
So, Johnny, can you cover the stuff on the arrest?
Yeah.
We can swap footage.
Tore down a sign.
Could you do me a favour? Could you just ask Nikki over there to, you know, Nikki in the bright-coloured stripy coat? Can you ask her if she can come sort of over here so she can talk to me?
Is that the one? Are you standing next
The tall lady with the thick jumper on that's got the rainbow colours. She's got a rucksack on her back. Just you can see her from here. Look. Further on.
Obviously, I mean, the thing these days is that everybody's on camera, so everybody can review everything. No, I haven't got one. Several officers. There's extra officers walking around with proper video cameras as well. So everything's being recorded, but for our own personal logs, it's paperwork and like that. That's all. Just to everyone, obviously, if someone makes an allegation against a police officer,
She's there, look, with the yeah.
If you disagree with the decision, the sensible and proportionate thing to do would be to leave, as asked, and then complain about it.
unfortunately, tragic things do happen.
You won't be able to come back in again?
No, I'm staying here. If you ask them nicely...
No, I've already said that you've got permission. They said no, you wouldn't have. Yeah.
Right. If you want more nice people on this side, you know, that understand that you're actually looking after us, you might as well let them in. Because we are doing more good.
Unfortunately, my orders are nobody comes across the line.
Not choice, but
for
you know,
various reasons.
he's a very nice, respectable man.
He certainly is. But
you probably want more people like that inside than outside.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, they said that you were a liar because you wouldn't have been allowed back in. Nobody's been allowed back in, and that.
Well, apparently what happened was the Section 3 was put on at the point when they were allowing people in and out still, but they didn't make that clear. I got in with the sergeant down there who said, yes, you're allowed to come in and out. And then I came over here and they said, you're not allowed in because we've changed it now. Within 5 minutes of me doing that, they'd actually got orders to...
Yeah, they wouldn't let me follow you in even. So.
Yeah, but that's because this lot over here had different instructions from that lot over there.
All right.
Yeah? So
Okay.
it's nobody's personal fault.
No, but apparently the grass is closed.
Yeah, but if I do nothing unlawful, I'm allowed to be here.
Yeah, but the grass is still closed.
Well, yes,
Section 1.
Not to me.
Yeah, it is. It's to everybody.
Because I had a really nice sergeant over there who said to me, yeah, it's a Section 3, but you're still allowed to come in and out. And I said, and I got all the law, I said, if I go in, am I at risk of getting arrested? He said, not if you don't do anything wrong. I said, okay. So I went in and then I came over here and told this lot that people are allowed in and out. They said, no, we've got orders saying you're not allowed in. And by the time I went back over to get the sergeant, he said to me, yeah, they've just changed it. They're not allowed back in now. I'm allowed out, yeah, but then I'm not allowed back in. I don't know, I'm losing it now. What's the Section 1?
Section 1.
Just been advised, we've been told under Police Reform and Social Responsibility Act.
The what? See?
We've been advised as the Police Reform and Social Responsibility Act. Close the grass. I believe it's the wardens have said not to go on. And then due to that, once you're already on, but you can't come back.
If it gets too much, it's all we several.
So what's the Section 1 then?
You may have to ask the sergeant who spoke to it back, because I don't know what he was talking to in regardless.
If you ask this guy here.
What's the Section 1?
There's lots of acts that have been lots of sections.
Oh, I don't know. I'm not being funny. I actually just want to know.
Ask that guy there, he knows all about it.
Now they've actually rolled out the tasers.
I'll ask that one.
Not in this situation. It's only effective against one person. It's like
And the rain falls down. Oh, but the sun and rain and Christmas.
It's our right to protest there 24 hours a day.
Yeah, okay, if you want to protest, paper, fine. They close the grass area in front of them.
Is that not what protest is about? Being able to do what you want, where you want?
Yeah.
The fact that you put us onto the pavement makes our protest invalid, really, doesn't it? Because we're doing it what you tell us to do again? Or does it? If I want to protest there, surely that is my right. And surely you are a public servant? Yeah? Are you not a public servant?
Are you a public servant? You answer him. You're not allowed in, but you're a public servant.
Why? I'm entitled to ask you if you're a public servant, aren't I? You tell me you're doing your job. Your job is to protect and serve the public, not the government, not the corporations.
Exactly, you're supposed to be protecting.
Certainly not the grass, because we're talking about protecting the bloody ecology of this whole world. You know?
You're supposed to be protecting us.
You're not protecting us at all.
You're threatening us. Just by your attitude.
You're intimidating. You know, you come up here outnumbering everybody, surrounding everybody, and you think it's not intimidating. You think it's like people's rights to protest are still here because you have let us do this. You let us stand on the pavement. Yeah, good. At least you didn't say I'm just doing my job like everybody else.
Send in 300 police officers to pick up a big blue tarpaulin.